Meeting on May 16th, 2017. Two matters of formality. One, we tape everything here, so if you wish to address, and we invite any comments, questions, suggestions. If you wish to address the commission, then please identify yourself so the recorder picks it up and use one of the mics. And the second matter of formality, we always introduce ourselves.
Judith Darrell Kemp.
My name is John Kiernan.
I'm Arthur Doyle.
Ingrid Beatty.
Hans Van Lingen.
Kathy Bowers.
First on the agenda is DPW Bradley Road. Are you set?
Over here, maybe over here, fine.
Yes, that'd be great. Great, thank you.
Sure. So, good evening. My name is John Thompson. I'm the town engineer here in the town of Milton, work for the Public Works Department. And this is Chris Trudell. He's also an engineer with the Public Works Department. So this spring, we would like to undertake a drainage and roadway reconstruction project on Bradley Road. This is actually a project that we've had planned for a few years, and funding has kind of kept pushing us off, and we're finally at a place where we can finish the project. Essentially, I'm sort of gonna refer to Bradley Road as the easterly side, which this is Blue Hill Avenue in the vicinity of the fire station.
Right.
And this is Brush Hill Road on the westerly side. And essentially, Bradley Road's a big valley. The easterly side on the fire station side, right now does not have any surface drainage on the road. The westerly side from Brush Hill Road down to the low spot where the culvert is, does have surface drainage on the road. What we frequently see on Bradley Road after big rains is that right now stormwater is essentially running unchecked down the road, getting off into the gravel shoulder, eroding away the gravel shoulder, and eventually making its way down to this stream bed in an uncontrolled fashion. So it's eroding away the roadside, it's carrying sediment and trash and debris with it off the road, and it's also leading to a premature deterioration of the asphalt. So the idea is we want to install a formal surface drainage system in this location, which would be new, including various catch basins and manholes to collect the water, to convey the water down to the bottom of the hill, and then to discharge it at the culvert location where it would eventually get into the stream bed. On the westerly side of Bradley Road, like I said, there is an existing surface drainage system. So we're going to be reusing that for the most part. What we're primarily doing in that location is replacing all the catch basin structures. Right now they're old brick structures that are very small, so it's hard for our equipment, the DPW's equipment, to get in and to clean the sediment out of the basins. So we're going to be putting large precast catch basins in, bringing them up to our standard, essentially. But all the existing pipe that's in the road will be remaining in place, and this system also eventually makes its way down to the culvert and discharges in this location.
And do you have some kind of oil separators at the discharge location to clean out sediment and
there'll be no actual oil or water separators. Each catch basin will be fitted with a standard hood on the inlets of each catch basin, so they do act to I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a hood, the catch basin hood are, but they are designed to separate out some oil and keep them in the basin.
And then is there an operation and maintenance plan that'll go with this to show that DPW will clean them out periodically?
There is. So right now, actually, under our current NIPD's permit, or the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, we are mandated to clean every catch basin, every catch basin in the town at least once every 3 years. And moving into the new NIPD's regulations, which are going to take place, which are going to take effect in July of this year, the town will have to clean every basin once a year.
All right, and what about by directing the water, and I understand the problem with the sort of the sedimentation that goes on as it runs down the street, but we just had a number of hearings on the Rex property because they were going to put a culvert under a new driveway, and one of the issues was, you know, which way is the water going and how much water is going there. And one of the homeowners came in, and I think if I've got them right, I think the culvert is somewhere around here.
Yep.
And there was
Where it crosses this driveway here?
yes. And the concern was that there was water coming this way. We didn't know how much mounding would take place here, and we didn't know how much extra water would be here. And the fear was that it's going to back up before it crosses under this location right here.
Sure.
So I just didn't have any sense as to whether or not this is going to add water coming into, and I don't know which homeowner it was that was concerned, but he indicated that there could be some backup, you know, and I know it's going uphill, I think, at this point.
Correct.
But do you have any drainage calculations as to whether this will add water?
We do. So essentially, the answer is no. I mean, right now, all the water that's falling on this section of Bradley Road is getting here anyway.
Okay.
It's just really doing so in an unchecked manner. So really, we're not displacing or putting any water where it hasn't been going already. We're just sort of getting there in a more orderly and cleanly fashion, I guess you could say.
Okay.
What are the blue lines on the map? Is that an actual stream?
So, yeah, we pulled this off of the state's GIS layer just to show where the stream bed is. So I actually freehand in this section here just to sort of show where the actual, I guess you would call it a stream bed, but it's not a running stream most of the
It
time.
doesn't have a name. There's no name
This is
associated.
the one that was reversed about 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They reversed the directions, and we never figured out how that happened.
Oh, really?
Right.
So-
I think it's Balster.
It may be Balster. It's the headwaters to Trout Brook, which I believe starts pretty much on the opposite side of Blue Hill Avenue.
Right.
So ultimately, it crosses Blue Hill Avenue and becomes Trout Brook.
Thoughts, questions, comments?
No, I was saying that what you're talking about, and this will be a remarkably improved situation.
We think so.
Much needed.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it a cost issue that you wouldn't have an oil separator prior to discharge?
Yeah, it's a cost and a space issue, really. For the most part, the oil water separators aren't really designed to go into main trunk lines. They're more designed to treat discharges from maybe a parking lot or from smaller surface areas. But to put one in the main trunk line where it's going to be, seeing a significant volume at times, I think in order for it to function properly, it would have to be a really giant structure, which, I mean, we just simply, it's sort of cost prohibitive and space prohibitive at this location.
Any thoughts? No? Okay. Are there abutters here from Bradley Road or that area, Blue Hill Ave? Members of the public that have a question or a comment? John, this is, I think that which would motivate us is just a represent, and you've made the representation, that it's an improvement over existing conditions.
Exactly.
And that's what we're looking for.
That's really the point that I was trying to make, is that, right now it's what's happening anyway, again, but we're just really trying to do it, collect it, clean it, and discharge it without all the sediment, the trash, getting down into the stream bed, and also by saving the life of the road and the shoulders at the same time.
All right, and this is a notice of intent. So we have our regular, we call them boilerplate conditions, which we shouldn't use that term, but
Sure.
standard conditions that relate to not refueling within the area of our jurisdiction, not storing equipment with hydraulic pumps within our jurisdiction.
Sure.
Do you know how long the street's going to be open?
Closed, you
That
mean?
is a trench, well, is the trenching it?
The trenching. So, we haven't really had any scheduling meetings.
Now, you're doing this yourselves, you're not, are you?
No, we're gonna be
Bidding it?
using, yes, we're gonna be, using a general contractor.
Okay.
So we haven't really gotten to the scheduling part yet, but,
What's your anticipated start?
would probably be within, by summer this year. And we would anticipate getting it done before the end of the construction season.
All right, and going back to our standard conditions, that would include, I think you anticipate, that would include the erosion controls?
Correct.
Especially down at the low point.
Correct. And so we do plan on using erosion controls all through the low point. And that's what we have on our plans, and also filter fabrics in all the existing basins, while construction's going on.
Okay, and again, I'm getting ahead of you probably here with the construction phasing, but do you know how long it will take overall? And if you're going to have, 20 feet open a day or 200 feet open a day?
Typically, I would say they probably would get anywhere, probably a couple 100 feet a day when they're doing the actual drain trunk line. When they're doing the structures and dropping catch basins in and things like that, they probably get 3 to 4 structures in a day would be my guess. And really, they're backfilling as they're going, so I wouldn't anticipate any long length, that an excavation is open or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, because the faster you backfill, the better for us, because there's less risk of erosion.
Sure, absolutely.
And where would the construction equipment again be stored overnight?
So the way we wrote the specification is that it's basically on the contractor to find a location.
We've had some real serious problems with contractors.
Sure.
Randolph Avenue was our biggest.
Oh, okay. Noted, but certainly, they can't store equipment in our right of way without permission, and if they do, we can certainly have them moved. So
So you don't have a problem if we write that in as a condition that there'll be no
equipment stored on the.
on the right of way?
I think that's fine. Frankly, that's probably.
Part of the reason I raised that,
It's very
John, is
narrow
that
anyway.
There was construction in the vicinity of Herrick Drive, and all of the heavy-duty equipment was stored on the wetland side of Herrick during that whole process. So we want to, there's plenty of other places where it could have been stored, but right up against the wetlands.
Okay.
So none in the wetland area, none in the buffer zone, and none in your right of way? Meaning Bradley Road.
On Bradley, sure.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments, suggestions? Nothing from the public? How about a motion to approve the order of conditions and issue it, subject to those specifications that we've indicated, the standard conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Done. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank
Chris,
you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 2 on the agenda, notice of intent, 75 Edge Hill Road. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good evening, I'm Bob Sheffield, attorney representing the Cunningham Foundation. And with me, what?
I was going to introduce myself, but fine.
Okay.
If you know who I am, you can introduce me.
With me is Bruce Alexander, he's chairman of the board of the Cunningham Foundation. We have Jane Hodgman back there, she's also a member of the board. We have Dave Waldron, who is the manager of Cunningham Park. And we have Tony Zarelli from Winston and Sampson, our engineers. And we plan to open hopefully just about 2 months from now, a little over 2 months from now. We will be in operation, we've been in operation as a swimming area since 1920, so,
This year you want to open the pond.
yes.
And by the way, the pond was first built in 1920 by Weston and Sampson.
I've been around for a long time.
Are
So,
you going to put up a new sign saying Cunningham Pond?
We just go CP now.
Oh, okay.
I'm calling it Cunningham Park. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tony to go over the specific areas and what we need to have approved in order that we can proceed.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here tonight. Essentially, what we're here to ask for is permission to do several safety improvements to the pond. We had a state report that was issued last year, which had a number of recommendations for improvements to the overall safety of the pond. And at this time, the foundation would now like to proceed and do that work. We've listed them out, but they include replacement of the drain covers within the pond and some equalizer lines to make sure that the plumbing is up to state code. We wanted to paint the deck footings and buoy boundary lines. Basically, that's kind of the work that's within the pond. And then install some bench covering, a bench in kind of the buffer zone, as well as an emergency phone outside of one of the buildings so it's accessible for people in the pond. Essentially, those are the kind of improvements we're talking about doing within and around the pond. I know that last time we were here, there were some questions on water quality and what kind of standards we would have to meet. We're still being regulated by the Board of Health as a recreational area, so we'll still have to meet clarity and bacterial requirements. Dave does regular monitoring of the pond, and I think everybody would be, feel very comfortable with whatever reports go to the Board of Health are also copied to the Conservation Commission for your review. That way everybody's kept in the loop. With that, that's essentially what the project entails. Very minimal work actually within the pond and a little bit of work outside of the pond. In addition to the notice of intent, we've also sent in a request for the 25-foot, for work within the 25-foot no disturb zone, or waiver.
All right, I've got two quick questions. What's an equalizer line?
It's essentially plumbing for the pond to make sure that if the water levels drop or rise, that the skimmers and all of those features continue to work.
Okay, so it measures the level?
It maintains, so when the level drops, it maintains the pressure in the system to make sure that the pond still functions.
Okay. And secondly, did you get a call from the Board of Health, or have you had a meeting with the Board of Health? I got a call saying you folks, meaning the Conservation Commission, changed it from a pool to a pond. Of what significance is that to you, to us? Mm-hmm. I immediately addressed the issue of what you just said, clarity and hygiene, bacterial count. Yeah. So those standards are the same. They're still monitored by the Department of Public Health, as well as the Board of Health, the local board, correct?
Correct.
All right, because that was our motivating factor for us.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that our public safety was paramount, and it sounds like it is.
Essentially, that's what this project would entail, is improving the safety of the pond. And bacteria counts is exactly one of those, and water quality would be a major issue for that.
The water in the pool is measured 4 times a day as far as bacteriological, and then periodically they take a sample and it's sent out to a testing lab that's prescribed by the Milton Board of Health.
John, I really think that's a matter between the Board of Health and the Cunningham Foundation, not between the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission, as much as I appreciate
Their interest was that, did we know that it had an impact on some of the state regulations in terms of the turnover, the number of hours? And I said, yes, we did know that, but our predicate assumption was it would not impact upon the cleanliness of the water, the hygiene standards.
Right.
And I just made that point
Gotcha.
to them.
Thanks.
And I didn't know if they were going to reach out to you and talk to you folks or not.
Not yet.
did,
The
okay.
only question I had was, are we applying through the Milton Board of Health for it says pool permit, will we call it a pond permit? Is that what we're getting from the Board of Health this year. In other words, their form, I do every year, it's a fee, we fill it out, and I'm just curious, we'll still go through that same process with the Board of Health.
That's our working assumption.
Yes.
What
Yes.
does Houghton's Pond do?
I don't know, I can't find out what they do.
I don't think they,
There's-
I know they have testing.
Yes,
Yes.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I think the Board of Health will come in for the restrooms, come in and test the water, and what other safety factors there could be when they walk around and so forth. And so I'm assuming we'll still apply for a permit through the Board of Health.
The other thing is when the Conservation Commission issued the determination of applicability, that was sent to the state health authorities so that the left hand would know what the right hand is doing.
Yeah, they reached out to us immediately after the determination was made, and we sent them
DPH or DEP?
the State Board of Health.
Okay.
DPH.
Yeah, and we submitted the RDA with the findings from this commission to them for review, and we've yet to hear back from them. But they have access to that material, and they've had it for probably about a month, two now.
Couple of months now.
2 months now.
Kathy, did we get
Whatever-
in? I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't mean
okay.
to-
I was going to say, whatever Houghton's Pond does is what you should do now, because
Yep.
I think that's the only other pond for swimming in Milton, where we don't swim in Turner's Pond or any of the
No.
other ponds.
That would be the only one in
Yeah.
Milton. I'm sure that there are others around the state, but that's the only one in Milton.
The only new issue I would have, now that it's a pond, is in terms of fertilizer on the grass. Do you fertilize the grass?
The upper fields,
Yeah.
for the fields, yes.
Yeah, now the new standards for the state, the 3 numbers in fertilizer, that middle number, phosphorus, has to be 0. No phosphorus at all. Unless you do a soil sample and you send it to the state and they say you need phosphorus. But that's been leaching into the water, and where you do have the stream that runs through, that middle number should be 0,
But
no
those
phosphorus.
those fields are upper fields?
Yeah.
They're considerably far from the pond?
That's the new standard, though. You cannot put down any phosphorus,
Within what distance, Judith? It's not,
any at all. It relates to
Doesn't matter
both.
where it is?
It doesn't matter, as long as it goes into a stream or a body of
Oh, would-
water.
Interesting,
No.
the stream that we have is on the side of the pool
Uh-huh,
where there is no fertilizer whatsoever.
Okay.
Nothing is fertilized there, it's just not even mowed most of the time, it's just
Okay.
woods. On the upper fields that you're talking about, there's no stream there at all.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Okay, so.
Cunningham Brook or whatever we want to, Furnace Brook, whatever they call it, is on the
Okay,
south side of the field, of the
the
pond.
lower field is essentially wild land. That's,
I'm sorry?
the lower field is essentially a wild land. It's been mowed sufficiently so that there's no
Time
brush.
out. There is, and again, nowhere near our stuff is nowhere near the brook. The new Little League field is a lower field,
uh-huh,
and although the brook does not run through it, it runs above it and beyond it. And I'm sure they probably will make sure that, we don't fertilize that field. The
Okay.
Little League handles it all themselves, but we can
check that out.
advise them as to,
Check that out. That middle number should be 0 for phosphorus, none at all. Unless you get the soil tested and it shows it needs it, which is highly unlikely.
okay, that's not within our purview, except to tell them that they have to do it, because we
Okay.
permit them to
Sure.
run the field.
All right, so you get that, Kathy, as a special condition? Okay.
I think just have one request. If, you mentioned the frequency of sampling, and is this detailed in any kind of formal operations and maintenance plan of what the requirements are, or how you adhere to the health requirements? Is there any sort of, plan that you've put together that shows how you're continuing to basically follow?
It's a state reg.
It's a state.
It is,
Yeah.
and I was asking.
It's 105 or it's CMR.
Yeah, 105 CMR
So you
430.
Yeah.
you follow the
105.
reg,
Yeah.
the reg doesn't require
How
that
much-
you
how
put
much-
together a formal plan or anything like that?
No, how
Okay.
much, the chlorine should be, what the alkalinity is and so forth, that's all in that 105 CMR that we follow. And when the Board of Health, when the State Board of Health came in, they tested that and were satisfied. The only thing they weren't satisfied with basically was the turnover of the water, and that's why we've gone in this direction.
Yeah. We also included the operation and maintenance details in the notice of intent.
Yep.
The narrative, yeah.
Anything else from the commissioners? Abutters, members of the public, any questions, comments, suggestions?
Can I?
Yes.
We will, in an effort to improve, continue to improve, in the fall, we are looking to putting in a new filter system. We currently have diatomaceous earth. The new state-of-the-art is a sand filter, and it will require some construction, maybe within our sand filter house or next to it, we're not sure. Weston and Sampson is going to be our engineers, and we will come to you with a notice of intent at that point to make sure we do it the way you want it done. But the reason for that is two things. We may be able to improve clarity without as much chlorine, and we also are going to have a new chlorine introduction system, which may be easier to tighter the chlorine, which has been high or low. It's not as good as we'd like to have it. So we'll be looking at that in the fall. It's obviously we can't do it now before the pool opens.
Okay. And you still have an existing order of conditions that says that at the end of the season, you have to let the water sit before it's discharged?
Yes.
We have two things there. We also have a connection to the sewer in case the pool does overflow and we have to pump it, or starts to overflow while there's still chlorine in the pool. That goes into the sewer system, which was your requirement, as opposed to going into the brook.
Going in the brook, correct.
But in the spring, in the fall, we let it go for more than a week. We keep testing it, and then,
But you test it before it's discharged to
Yes.
show that the
Yes,
chlorine is
absolutely.
dissipated, okay.
We keep it a week. On most years, it's the chlorine's gone after about 3 days. But we usually keep the water in there about a week, and then we pump it out. And chlorine goes pretty quick when the sun's out and so forth. It evaporates pretty quickly.
Okay, anything else?
Just while we're all together on a separate matter, if I may, we had a former member of the Conservation Commission bring to our attention within the past year their concern about some of the excavation from the Little League field that you mentioned, Bruce, going in a couple of locations in the park, one being on the left-hand side of the roadway in. Just wanted to make sure that as a settlers, there's no inadvertent tree kill where soil may go up too far against the bark of some of the trees. So we just wanted to pass that along as a friendly communication.
maybe we tell
Oh,
town tree or whoever's doing that stuff?
no, the area, you come in the back road, the
Yes.
old, what was the term?
Oh, I see where you are.
Yeah, and that was always just soaking wet with water until the town came in about a year or two ago and fixed that sewerage area there. So there isn't a lot of,
Drainage area, not sewage
yeah,
area.
the drainage is not as it was years and years ago, but we're gonna try to clean that up and maybe even plant some trees and stuff
That'd be
like
great.
that, that whole area. Because, and then we did it, the other time is at Fuller's, where the back road to the barn in Fuller's, there was another whole area of low drainage and so forth. This was soil from the Little League field that they were doing. Yeah, I knew that there was, someone asked us about it, so, but we'll make sure that on the tree kill for sure.
All right, but you know what the issue is, because if you pack the soil around the tree trunk itself,
Yeah.
it'll kill it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, is a motion to approve the order of conditions with the special conditions that we've got an O&M plan that's here. The testing protocol is in accordance with the state regs. Judith, that there'll be no phosphorus on the lower fields, including the Little League field. And the testing results will go to the Conservation Commission, to Kathy? All right, so if you're sending it to the Board of Health, just send it to
Right.
Kathy as well.
Right, yeah, no problems. The Board of Health requires every 3 weeks a sample testing from G&L in
Yes.
Quincy. It's a private testing, and it's done every 3 weeks. We could do it every week if we had to, it's not a problem.
Okay, now, we'll do whatever the Board of
Yeah,
Health
okay. All
requires. We
right.
don't want to put our own requirements on
Okay.
it. But just as long as we give a notice of it.
Yeah, we will.
All right. So, moved. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Hans, are you voting?
I'm sorry.
Good. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Minority report.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Number 3 on the agenda is informational, 800 Brook Road, Eversource.
You have the email of the American Holly?
Yes. All right, this is from it's from Eversource, and this is the site at 800 Brook Road, right next to Fontbonne Academy, where the first transformer blew and caused a fire and killed 5 or 6 trees, 5 trees anyway. And this is part of our planting plan. And this is an email dated yesterday, May 15th. And it says, "Hi Kathy, as we discussed last week, our landscape contractor has expressed some concern regarding our planting plan and the future of American holly in the wetlands at our substation 362 site." That is the 800 Brook Road. The site is currently inundated with about a foot of water, which would likely drown the American holly trees once they are planted. Would the commission be amenable to Eversource submitting a revised, more detailed planting plan for this site? The plan would inventory plants already growing at the site or nearby wetlands and make selections based upon those observations. The trees/shrubs we are looking to plant would need to grow no taller than 10 feet due to the proximity to the substation and be tolerant to inundated wetland conditions. Please let me know if this would be acceptable, and we will start developing a revised planting plan for submittal to the commission. I appreciate the commission working with us at this site as we work to find plantings that will be acceptable in this inundated wetland location in proximity to an existing electrical substation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Matthew Waldrop, PWS CES SWI, environmental engineer. Sounds reasonable, but I'll defer to you.
I drove by there the other day after all the
Is it
rain.
underwater?
And it's like a swimming pool in there. I can't believe there's an electrical transformer, much less 2. It's the worst place you can think of electricity and water, you know? And the American hollies would never survive in that, never. So I totally agree with this. Why can't they move the transformers someplace else?
Well, we raised that condition, that, in our last discussion as to whether or not there might be a long-term plan to do just that.
Yeah. Because it always floods.
And also,
Brook Road floods.
If they increase the size of that pad, you get displacement, which means possibly the generation of more water
More
by virtue
impervious
of
surface.
the weight
That's right.
All right,
of an
that's
enlarged
good.
pad.
But
on
the,
the wetland.
but the construction of that pad predates the Wetlands Protection Act.
Unless
Back
it's
in the
enlarged,
50s, I think.
unless it's enlarged to accommodate the new transformers. Something in the back of my mind says that that had to be done.
But they enlarged it?
It had to, yeah, we should double check, maybe double, I'm just saying,
Okay.
not that we need to do anything at this particular point in time.
It might
but
also
when that
depend on where the
happens-
flood elevations are.
Yeah, exactly. It
So if
affects-
the transformer units themselves are bigger and it's within the flood zone, it's actually not just the pad, but also
Wait,
the structures themselves.
We should ask them how much it would cost.
Sure.
I mean, is it totally out of the question? Are we talking $50 million or 5 or 1 or what? I mean, we have no idea. And maybe it will, put it in the, somebody's mind in the administration to consider it. Because it makes no sense to have those transformers there.
I think that's a good idea as a proactive matter in working with Eversource, and I think it's good future planning.
I think
But
that's
it's
the
not
intent.
within the purview
That's
of
correct.
this particular, and we gave them a planting plan
I
that we had
agree.
voted, so now we have to vote to
No, I like this
allow the
idea.
revision to that planting plan.
I think it makes a lot of sense, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
because we want the trees to survive,
Sure.
not a shrub. All right, any other
I
comments or
think maybe
questions? on that?
cypress, like swamp cypress, doing,
Well,
like you see
Just
down in
require that
Florida.
they're
you
native
know.
species.
That's about it.
Oh,
Louisiana,
right,
maybe.
that's
Louisiana.
right. Yeah, Judith is the native species person here. Do you want to call them, or contact them?
Sure,
Do it?
yeah,
All right.
I could do that.
Will I do anything if I, okay. I just don't want to deprive the
So we agree with this,
file
though,
of that.
that we will
No,
change.
it's already in the file.
So that's a copy.
Okay.
All right. Are there any questions from abutters or members of the public? I think we should have a vote because we do have an existing order of conditions. So we could vote to amend that order of conditions to reopen the planting plan and to consider the revisions submitted by Eversource in conformity with their request. That make sense?
Yep.
You have a
Yes.
motion?
So we open?
Second? Anybody second the motion?
I do.
You do? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is notice of intent, 693 711 Randolph Avenue. This is a continued hearing. Do we have a request for continuance?
A verbal one from Jim Burke.
Now,
Okay.
just for the sake of the public, what is 693 711 Randolph Ave?
Meg Lane.
That's Meg Lane, that's the 40B project.
That's right.
That's currently still before the
That's right.
Housing Appeals Committee. And we had,
And it's
What,
been
a month ago?
it's been before us for about, what, 4 years? 4? Ingrid, when did you get stung by all the bees? Wasn't that 4 years ago on the sidewalk?
Blocked it out of my memory.
that was.
It's been at
okay.
least.
Yeah,
It's been at least.
yeah.
It was. Well, they are in kind of a holding posture because they did file the appeal and they had, what, 5 days of hearings? The first day of hearings was here. And then I think they moved into Boston for the rest of the appeal. And that has to do with the number of units and the size of the footprint that was approved by the ZBA
Okay,
in issuing the comprehensive permit. So we're really in a holding pattern. We had agreed originally to hold off on the Wetlands Protection Act analysis. We originally denied their town bylaw application, and that still stands at this point, although the issue is going to be whether or not the subsequent issuance of a comprehensive permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals will kind of trump our prior
right.
use of the wetlands bylaw. But that's kind of a hypothetical issue. The real issue is we have not yet ruled on the Wetlands Protection Act under the state. So I'm willing to accept even though it's not in writing, I think we're making a formal record of the fact that their representative asked that the case, that the hearing be continued.
Okay.
Did he ask for a date?
He did not.
Well, just put it on next month?
Okay.
All right, is that acceptable to everybody? I don't think we need a vote on it.
Do we want someone to come in, though, and explain the status so that the public, as they're, listening to these hearings, have a better sense of if people have questions about it or any of that, rather than just having...
Yeah, we could certainly ask Jim Burke to come back at our next meeting.
If people have questions about the 40B and, kind of
Right.
getting people caught up to date with the status of it.
I don't think he'd be the appropriate person to address that.
He's not
point.
the applicant, that's correct.
That's correct.
I don't... Do you have any way to contact Paul Holland?
Yes.
All right, just ask if he could send some representative just to give us an update.
You're
And I think you're right,
That's better, yes,
so
sure.
that the public has a sense as to where we are in this
Right.
process.
Let's do that.
All right. That does not require a vote, that's just a continuance. Next on the agenda is notice of intent 94 Parkwood Drive. Good evening.
Good evening. I have green cards if somebody...
Thanks.
Would you like me to proceed, Mr. Chairman? For the record, my name is George Collins from Collins Civil Engineering Group. I'm a registered professional engineer. I'm representing Barry Waldbaum, of 94 Parkwood Drive for a notice of intent associated with the upgrade of a septic system. We did go before the Board of Health on April 24th and received approval from the Board of Health for the septic system. Essentially, this property is located on the north side of Parkwood Drive. There's a drainage way and a drainage easement that runs along the easterly property line that discharges into a wetland and to the rear of the property. And then there's also a bordering vegetated wetland associated with the wet area behind the property. That wetland line is, it's a combination of the top of bank associated with the drainage ditch, and then it transitions into just a regular bordering vegetated wetland line. A little point, just a little point of interest is I did the septic design to the west of this property, and it's basically, this is the same portion of the wetland line that's depicted here on the property. So I came before the commission in 2011, got that project approved next door. So I'm very familiar with just the general layout and hydrology and geology of that area. I did have an opportunity to speak to the homeowner next door, just to assure them that there wasn't going to be any impact on their property, any surface water, that type of thing. And then the 50-foot buffer is shown in orange, and then the 100-foot buffer is shown in pink. So almost the entire property is in jurisdiction. What I am proposing, and basically in this area is where the septic system is going. What I'm proposing for erosion control, which is the dark dash gray line, I'm actually proposing 18-inch diameter silt sock, which is quite substantial, and that'll be very, very effective as far as preventing any sediment from going past the work limit and impacting the wetland. And then another thing that I'm doing as a precautionary measure, just so the contractor has clarity on where they can go and where they can't go, is I'm also putting in a hay wattle starting at the front house corner and going all the way up to Parkwood Drive. That will prevent them from incidentally encroaching within the 50-foot buffer in this area. The other thing that I've included is an aggressive dewatering pit in the event that they encounter groundwater during construction. I have a dewatering pit and a dewatering pit detail, basically, which is basically I'm proposing, if they do need it, to excavate out the old test pit that we had done there, and then they surround it with hay bales, line it with filter fabric, and then do another row of hay bales around the perimeter. So it's a very aggressive, very effective dewatering system in the event that they need to use that.
What about, I think I know what your answer is going to be, and I understand the significance of the driveway, but is it possible for you to slide that leaching field further away from the wetlands towards Parkwood Drive?
All the underground electric runs right through here. You see the
U/E?
The U/E, and that. So that's one of the primary things that are preventing us from going any closer to Parkwood Drive.
Okay.
So like I said, we would have to reroute, the utilities, and then also when possible, I try not to have a leaching field under a driveway.
Right, that's what I anticipated you were going to say. I didn't see the utility line. We had a case 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, on Parkwood. And we were amazed that the perk was 0. It was all clay. I forget the number. It was in close proximity to this. And one of the Conservation Commissioners at the time, Craig McNaught, was concerned with that, and he actually tried to change the regulations so that everybody had to give us some kind of a perk test. Now, I know that the Board of Health gave you some kind of a waiver. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, that's.
This is a clay area, I think.
Yes, well, next door, this is the design from next door. We actually, similar to this project, when we excavated to do the percolation test, it was too wet to conduct a percolation test because the soil was too wet to conduct a percolation test. And there is a provision in the regulations that allows us to collect the soil sample in lieu of conducting a percolation test. The soil next door was actually a loamy sand, which is reflected in that, in the soil results there. We have what's called a sandy loam, and so it is not classified as a clay.
I don't think it was next door, because next door, was it the Gregg home that was next door? I don't think it was the Gregg home. It was actually a home that abutted
I think it
a
was around the
forested.
corner.
It was on the corner, or at is it a dead end? I can't remember. I think it was the last house, and the water would not go anywhere, it just sat there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why, it wasn't a septic system. It was a roof runoff. We had nowhere to put it, because it wouldn't perk at all. So maybe it changes, because I know what you just said, I accept that it's
Yes,
a
yeah, and
sandy.
even just from this part of this, from the westerly side of this site to the central portion of this site, there's a change in soil, so. And we did do a second test hole up here, and we came up with similar results. It's a sandy loam. It's not a clay by definition.
And what about that test pit?
That test pit location, are you talking about as an alternate location?
Yes, correct.
I apologize, I don't know his name. He's the review engineer for Board of Health. I think his name is Paul. He and I discussed that. If we put the system up here, there's about 5 or 6 really big pine trees that would have to come down. And then in this particular location, resulted in a gravity-fed system. And if we were to go up here, it would end up being a pump system. So between the required tree removal and the need for a pump, we just felt that this is a better location. There's no tree removal where we're putting the septic system, and it's a gravity-fed system, which is obviously a lot more reliable than a pump system.
And how far are you? You're 52 feet? Is that what it is?
The leaching field is 52 feet from, yeah, basically, we did the calculations, we fit that system in there, and it was just, kind of shoehorned, for the lack of a different expression. We're outside of the 50-foot jurisdiction. We meet the sideline side setbacks, and if the system had to be a little bit bigger, we would have either been encroaching the 50-foot buffer, or we would have had to reroute the underground utility. So it just fit right where we have it.
And what can you tell us about the improvement? Because we're always looking for improvements.
Well, currently we have a failed septic system that's located in this area. It is in the groundwater, and it's not providing any treatment of the wastewater before it enters the groundwater. What I'm proposing is what's called a 2-compartment septic tank. Code only requires a single compartment septic tank. I spec out, it's just a practice of mine. I do 2-compartment tanks. You literally get double settling in that tank, which results in a much cleaner effluent. And then it would be going into a newer technology septic system, providing it with proper groundwater separation, meeting current Title V standards.
Are you doing anything to abandon the existing, anything special, or are you just cutting the pipes, capping it, and?
That leaching bed will be abandoned in place and just disconnected. The existing septic tank will be decommissioned and removed.
Now, how far away is the closest sewer connection?
That conversation occurred prior to me getting involved. It was my understanding that they had already gone to the Board of Health and received the waiver. So to tell you the truth, I don't know. I know there is sewer in the neighborhood, but it's
I
not.
thought there was sewer in Parkwood, yeah.
Yeah, there is, but it's not in front of the site. It is up the site. That's up the street, and that's why we did the septic system next door as well, because sewer is not right in front of the property.
Yeah, so when you say right, you know, looking at the layout, how far?
If I were to tell you anything, I would be
Making it
misrepresenting
up.
myself. Yeah, I'd be making it up. I don't
Well,
know.
I'd like to
fair.
know the answer to that question, though.
It's my understanding that my client already went to the Board of Health, and there's a process that you go through with the Board of Health to demonstrate, between them and the DPW, to demonstrate whether a sewer tie-in is viable, and that process had already occurred before I was involved with the project.
So what does that process involve?
Basically, you have to go get a waiver from the sewer tie-in through the Department of Public Works, but I was
Get a
not
copy of
involved.
that
But I was not involved with that. When I was hired, that had already happened.
So I think this is the issue we had in Canton Ave as well.
So that's right.
Remember when there was a sewer tie-in, but they would have to go down, it was a little expensive, too
Right.
expensive.
They just expanded, though, beyond Apple Lane,
Yeah,
and they expanded it another 200 yards.
yeah, yeah.
So the sewer line actually goes towards the ski.
So if the Board of Health gives them a waiver, do we also give them a waiver and say, you know, you can infringe on the wetland instead of tying into the sewer?
Well, it's infringing on the buffer zone, it's not
That's what I
infringing on the wetlands. And let me shift gears.
Yeah.
Kathy, do we have anything that requires a site walk?
Pardon me?
Do we have anything on the agenda that requires a site walk?
Yes, probably the next item, 199 Canton Avenue.
All right, if we do that, what I was going to suggest, you get two people looking for, you know, some information as to how far the sewer is, and it may be a cost issue, which is a legitimate issue. But what I was going to suggest is if we can get that information, we don't have to make you wait too long. Because
We
it
just
was-
get a copy of the waiver.
What's that?
Yeah, request a copy of the waiver, because much of that information should be contained therein.
I would assume, though, you're right, okay. I would see, but to
Trying to
Judith's
make it
point,
easy. though,
just because they waived, doesn't mean
I mean,
it's not off the table
Right.
for us.
But
Board
it
of-
would provide some of the background information being discussed that we don't have to
It-
specify.
It probably would, and that would, the bottom line is we need to know how far is the sewer line? And it's probably contained in that waiver.
Yeah, please excuse my ignorance, I just wasn't involved with that process.
Oh, no, that's understandable.
Yeah.
We get that. I just,
And I-
the more information we get, the better it
Yeah.
is. And
I do know that there's a real estate transaction pending with this. I know that may not have any bearing, but, you know, I just.
No, it does.
They're,
We're sensitive to that.
They're anxious to,
Get this done.
and, you know, my experience with the Board of Health is they won't even entertain or approve a plan until we go through that, until that process is complete. So again, I was not involved with that, but I have been involved with that on other septic systems where we had to demonstrate that the sewer tie-in was not an option. Again, it's usually an economically driven argument. So
All right, well, let me ask two questions of the commission. If we're going to do a site walk, can we do it this Saturday?
I'm not here. We have
I'm not here.
daughter graduating from college.
Following, that's good.
The
Following
yes.
Saturday? What's the date on the following Saturday?
It's the 27th.
that's my, I have, my son has his Eagle Scout project that day, and I'm not available.
All
I
right.
probably can't do
Well,
that either.
That,
Then
to
there's
be honest,
Peter.
if we had the information, we're just looking for a public meeting where we can vote. The fact that you've got an improved system, that sounds good to us. But we've got, so my second question is, would you prefer to get that information before voting?
Definitely.
All right. So you've got a little bit of pushback, but you won't have to wait until our next, regular meeting here, which will be a month. But if we could put it on for the 27th, which would be a Saturday, even if you're not, and I understand and I respect your son's Eagle Scout project, I don't think you have to be there, because if we get the information,
I can't be there either.
you can't be there
On
on
the
the
27th either.
27th
The first
either?
time I can do it is the 3rd of June.
3rd of June. We're stretching it out pretty far. Can everybody else make it on the 27th?
I
I
can.
don't mean to cut you off, but
No, that's fine.
how many are missing for this Saturday?
If I may, I think I can answer the question for you.
Sure, you have to identify yourself there, but come forward,
Absolutely.
please.
Sure, my name's Foster Mackey.
You may have to use a mic.
Sure.
Thanks.
No problem. So, good evening, everybody. My name's Foster Mackey. I'm the prospective buyer of this property. I believe it's 191 feet away, is the distance to sewer.
So it's on Parkwood?
I believe it is on Parkwood, 190 or 191 feet away. I can't remember the exact number, but that was what I was told by the Board of Health.
Perfect. Then do you know what the cost difference would be?
No idea.
Do you know?
I don't.
We try to be
assuming it would be
user-friendly,
substantial.
so that, we want to protect the wetlands, but we're also
Sure.
sensitive to cost.
Just a quick question, 190 feet away from where on the platform?
From I believe the public sewer tie-in. That's at least what I saw in the paperwork. I did review the waiver.
Do you have any idea what the cost would be? Like, I don't know what 200 feet worth of ponds, I don't know.
I don't need,
I have, the last one I did in Milton, it was 405 feet, and it was about $100,000 for.
Wow.
So we're looking at like a $50,000 or $60,000,
I
just
think
if we,
that's about right.
if we were trying to use some general numbers.
'Cause I tied in from my house to Herrick. And how many feet is that? That's probably about the same, I would think.
200 feet?
About, a little bit less probably.
The,
And that was a bunch of years ago, and it was about $40,000.
And is that, and again, we usually don't get into this, but in terms of the burden on the homeowner, we try to be sensitive to it. Are you in that ballpark for this new septic system?
So that the seller actually is required to pay for the septic system. It's not something that as a prospective buyer I would be paying for. I'm more interested in the timeline.
It's about half, it's about half of that. It's closer to like $30,000.
so you said you have seen the waiver, you have, it's in your.
I have, yes.
How quickly do you think you can? I
Give it
think
to-
we just want to make sure that we have a copy.
The accurate
of it.
information.
Again, the Board of Health wouldn't approve the plan without that waiver in place, so.
I agree with you.
So, and again, we're just trying to push things along from a real estate closing perspective, so.
Do you have a closing date?
We do. It's the end of this month. It's been pushed several times just due to sort of the septic process. So the reason I'm here tonight is to kind of find out what that timeline looks like. We're very interested in moving as quickly as we can. We'd love to become residents of Milton, so that's why I'm here.
All right, Foster, legitimate point. We've got a couple of options. We could move up the site walk, and I know you're missing on the 27th. How many are missing for whatever this Saturday's date is?
I have the chair for the meeting.
So I can't make it at 20th, and I can't make it on the 20th and the 27th. I can make it on the 3rd.
Okay. And are you around this Saturday, 3, 5?
I can do the 20th, yes.
I can,
Yeah.
the time, yeah.
All right, well, the other option would be to do a conditional vote. But I'm not sure that's going to give you enough information. If you see the Board of Health waiver, which I believe exists, and I accept your representations, that it's 191
I think we
feet.
just have to be consistent,
Oh, I agree with
I
that.
think we need to develop a consistent analysis of when we require tie-in so that everyone is treated the same way,
Agree.
regardless of the cost.
That being said, that discussion never occurred with the application next door. If you wanted, again, I don't want to say I had a level of confidence coming here tonight, but, I had been before this commission next door, and that, if I thought it was going to be a point of contention, I would have been prepared for that. But again, I was not involved with that part.
How many years ago was the previous one?
That was 2011.
Wow, that long ago, wow. That was Gary Gregg's house?
I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
11, that long ago? Wow. So I'm trying to measure the sense here between Judith and Hans.
I'm okay with having a copy of the waiver be provided as a condition.
Yeah, let's go with that. It feels a little bit like after the fact to prevent the homeowners from, moving in and all that. So you don't want to hold people up. But I think in the future, we should try to develop a consistent standards for what we will accept and what's in the gray zone and those sort of things. And keep raising the issue of if there's a sewer to tie into, there's some obligation to tie into the sewer if it means that, our jurisdiction is being impacted.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. The only reason, if I look comfortable with this, it's only because it's an improvement that's been approved by the Board of Health.
Right, right.
And those two factors are significant to me. But I agree with what you said.
Yeah.
Because if it were like an equal cost, we'd rather have you do the sewer.
Right. And if it was even just a little bit more, and it's the seller who's paying for it, and the seller is probably making a pretty good profit on the house, and blah, 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 we could require that they tie into the sewer.
Correct?
But let's do that. Let's vote conditioned on we get the document. I'm okay with
In
that.
terms of that test pit, what's the likelihood of you seeing that used as a dewatering?
Up here,
Yeah.
this time of the year, it's relative, it's a wet time of the year, so this would be the more likely time frame that would
Okay.
come into play. And basically, the topography slopes in that direct towards the house, so I think with the aggressive containment of that
So
area.
it's suitable to let that, for that to perk out, basically?
Yes, yeah, when we dug down, we had standing water at like 7 or 8 feet, so there's a substantial void there that should accommodate any.
I would just make sure that it's sized appropriately and then it's monitored.
Well, yeah, but I think we should be more specific on that and make it a condition, because I wouldn't want to see the dewatering on the other side.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, we don't want it closer to the wetlands.
Yes, yeah. This is.
No, I think the location seems appropriate, yeah, just making sure that it's not
Yeah,
too small or that it's controlled, so. Make sure the contractor's aware of, that they have to keep an eye on it while they're pumping into it, that it doesn't overflow.
Hang on, we have to change the tape. Two more. Two of them. You get to do both,
It's gone. It's working.
is it?
Yep.
This is
that's not
65
recording.
technology.
Yeah,
You have to put them both down at the same time. There you go. See? Here's Michael Blute when you need him.
I know, right?
Arthur, you're gonna have to go back for training.
Okay. That won't be the first time.
yeah, I want to make sure that they're appropriately monitoring the dewatering system. That if they are dewatering, that they're appropriately monitoring it, making sure that it functions appropriately.
All right, so are you comfortable with that language, Kathy? Because that's
I need to
gonna,
hear it one more time. So you want the contractor to,
Just if they're going to be dewatering, that they monitor the wall pumping to make sure that it's
there's
functioning
no spillage.
appropriately.
Right.
Exactly.
It's functioning appropriately, and there's no spillage.
I don't know if you looked
Yeah, I
at
saw
the
it.
details, so, I mean, in addition to digging a hole, it'll be the height of a hay bale, so, yeah. And I've seen this particular setup in incredibly wet conditions work very, very well.
It all comes down to sizing and
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 like
pumping.
and the person that's
doing it.
doing it, yeah.
Did you get that, Kathy? Okay.
yep.
All right, other abutters that have a comment, question, members of the public that would like to be heard or make a suggestion? Hearing none, with those special conditions, is there a motion to issue the order of conditions subject to receipt of the Board of Health waiver? Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure that, I want to make sure that waiver is the appropriate like, well, we provide the supporting documentation. I don't know if a way,
Right, that led them to
allow this.
allow the. and
Okay,
approve it.
I just want to make sure we're careful with the language. Provide the documentation.
Sorry, do you remember the name of the, you said you saw the document
Was it,
yourself?
was it called a waiver?
I believe I read it in an email from I can't remember her name at the moment, the woman at the Board of Health, the director of the Board of Health.
Yeah, Caroline.
Caroline,
Yeah.
thank you. So it was a waiver that was, I believe, requested in January from the homeowner to the Board of Health.
Confirmed in that email that was
Yes,
granted?
yes. So
Okay,
that's,
if it was called a waiver, I'm fine with it. I just don't want to have I just want to make sure we're calling it the right thing.
Good point.
It came from an email, but changed from a
I'm not sure,
document?
but at a minimum, I would say that the confirmation from the Board of Health that the waiver was granted.
Yes.
Ideally, we would want the actual, if there is an actual waiver, we would want a copy of that. Sure.
Is that something that, I mean, we haven't met before, but
I've
yeah,
spoken
between the
a
two
few
of us,
times
yeah,
on
we
the
spoke
phone.
on the phone, but.
Yes.
Yeah, so between the two of us, we can get that.
I believe I have it all from Caroline.
Okay, great.
All right, and that is different than the letter that we have here,
Yes.
which essentially approves the
That approved the design, and the waiver occurred before I was even hired
understood.
to identify that doing a septic system was acceptable to the Board of Health.
Okay, so with those conditions and subject to receipt of the Board of Health, I'll call it a waiver, but understanding what you just said, is there a motion to approve an order of conditions?
So moved. Okay.
Second?
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, good.
Great.
Thank you very much. You all set?
And just out of curiosity, if we were able to get that documentation
Yeah.
tomorrow, what time frame will we be looking at for the actual order of conditions to be available? Just,
Ooh, you gotta be careful. Yeah.
I'm leaving Thursday, I'll be back until the 30th.
So the 30th. So, the reality of it is that she's leaving Thursday. Can you get it tomorrow?
yeah, I mean, do you think that's something you could?
This is something I can send to you very quickly, yes.
All right, and then with that, we should have close the business tomorrow? Can you do it that fast? Yeah. You should be all set.
And then can that be mailed to my office rather than to the applicants? Because you know what happens to stuff that, the orders of conditions always kind of, we lose control of them if they don't come to my office.
And you need to record that.
Yes, yes.
And submit,
Proof of recording, yep,
and then you have to wait 10 days.
yeah, from the date of issuance, yep. Excellent. All right, great, I appreciate your time.
Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is number 6, notice of intent, 199 Canton Avenue. Hi. Good evening. Would you introduce yourself for our magical recording?
Mike Walsh from Horticultural Concepts, and I'm assisted tonight by Catherine Wilkie, who's our landscape architect, and Nancy Latanzo, who's our goddess of all things.
Goddess, that's good.
And Erica Doherty, who's the owner of 199 Canton Avenue, just down the street. We have been working in conservation. I've been personally working in conservation since the early 80s. I don't know when 110 CMR came into effect. I might be older than that. But really, thank you very much for your work. I mean, we're #1 in the nation on conservation issues because of your work. It's really wonderful.
Making us feel good, huh?
I love it.
Be careful, you're
Sure.
trying to make us feel good.
No, it's true. And so we consider ourselves to be a part of the process too, and we are very responsible, and I'm very happy to bring to you a proposal that has net improvements to this property that's typical of many along Pine Brook, which is overrun by invasive non-native plants, including Falopia japonica, which is Japanese knotweed, Acer platanoides, the Norway maple, of course, and Rosa multiflora, and many other invasives. So I'm just going to go over the headlines, and anything that you want in more depth, we're well prepared to go over those with you. This is the property. Canton Avenue is along here. This is Pine Brook, and this stretch of Pine Brook is bound.
Pine Tree Brook.
I'm sorry, Pine Tree Brook. Thank you. And so this stretch of Pine Tree Brook is contained on this side of the stream by a stone wall, which is Quincy granite. It's very old property. And so there are big granite blocks here. And so this is the 100-foot offset, this is the 200-foot offset, this is the front of the house here. So the whole house is inside the buffers. So this is what the situation looks like with respect to existing invasives. All of this blue area is full of existing invasive plants. Those from the list that I mentioned earlier. And this area in here it's not invasive, but it's turf grass. Now, the good part of this is that the stone wall that I mentioned earlier, is a foot higher than the lowest point in the center of the property. You can see that with the contour lines here. So there is no drainage from this property to the brook, and there's never been an observed collection of water in the low spot. So this perks very, very nicely. So there's no, and I don't believe that there's ever going to be a danger of that we're not proposing to change the contours at all. So I believe it'll remain that stable. And so here are,
Can you just help me out again?
sure,
Where's the low spot?
the low spot is right here in the center of the existing lawn.
And
I
that's
have a photograph
28?
of that if you like.
What's your elevation there?
The elevation is 28.
So then it goes 27,
It's actually, I'm
26.
sorry, 26. And the top of the wall is at around 27.
26 is here.
Yes.
I don't see that on what I'm looking at. Are you looking at this one?
See that?
It's all slow. What I'm looking at here, as part of the notice of intent, appears to go, the house is 30, 29, 28, 27, 26,
26, that's the low point.
24. But I'm down to 24.
I think the 24 might be a label on a tree, a caliper label on a tree.
If
Well, I've
you
got
look-
20.
If you look there, it says the top of the wall is 26.4. It's very small type, but it's right there, 26.4. And it's in the large version, it's quite clear.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're below the top of the wall. And so, so this is the area of invasives, and so we have a total of 9,800 square feet that's inside the invasives, that is dominated by invasive non-natives, and we have a lawn area of 19,800 that's existing. There's also an existing deck that's along the back of the house. So what we're suggesting for improvements are as follows. So all of the invasives are to be removed. And in one of my copies of the submission, the invasives treatment plan was omitted. So I brought extra copies tonight, and I'll just distribute them.
Thank you.
Just take one hand around, please.
Can you get me oriented? What are the cross streets off of Canton Avenue? Where are we?
We're kind of in a stretch of Canton Avenue.
This is School
It's on-
Street up here.
School Street, I just need the
Yeah.
names.
Yep.
We all
Okay.
grew up here, so.
Okay.
School Street is which one?
Up here.
Okay. Okay, great. So what we're proposing is to remove all the existing non-natives. all of the Falloppia japonica, all of the Acer platanoides, and anything else that's in here, Rosa multiflora, etc., which will take a couple of years' work. So we'll be spraying with glyphosate in a formulation that doesn't have the harmful surfactant. It's a rodeo is the name of the formulation of glyphosate that's the current best practices for use in a wetlands buffer.
Did that just change about 2 weeks ago?
Did it?
Rodeo, I thought there was a national news announcement.
Yeah,
announcement on
I
rodeo.
heard something too.
Yeah.
Both of the main formulations contain glyphosate. I think you're right.
Yeah.
What was the change, do you remember?
I don't know, but I know the
Well,
national news carried
no,
it as crashing and
but
burning.
but there's no change in the regulation. There are now some studies that
I think
question
it's
the
been
absolute.
dissuaded, people are
Right,
dissuaded
that
from
it-
using
You
it.
know, we had been led to believe it's totally safe. Now there are some questions, some studies that show it may not be so safe. But I think it's just more of a question. It's
Yeah, I
not.
think it's not a reg.
Roundup
issue,
is
but there was
still
something
being
else.
sold, it's still being used.
We'll report back to you on that question and get
Yeah.
back, and we will use whatever's the current best practices for this.
But you don't have to spray it. I mean, what some people have been doing in order to avoid, sort of widespread use of it is a cut and paint on the cut. It's a lot more work, but you use a lot less of it and less of that glyphosate gets into the system.
Overspray.
We're willing to look into that. In this particular application, I'm not sure that would work, because Falloppia, that's, in my experience, it's been used before and not been effective. But again, we will look into what the current, we always want to work with the current best practices. Sometimes it's just get a herd of goats in. So,
But you gotta keep them there.
yes, oh yes, the fence too.
That's a great idea, we should.
I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we rent goats and
Yeah.
bring them in. So whatever we need to do to protect the resource, we will definitely do. So besides controlling the invasive non-natives, we're also proposing to reduce the lawn area. So the lawn area is currently 19,000 square feet. We're adding a planting bed of 4,200 square feet, so we're bringing that down. Outside the 100-foot buffer, between the 100 and 200-foot line, we're proposing to switch from turf grass lawns to a swimming pool and a patio and an expanded deck. So under the state guidelines, that's a 1-for-1, but I understand that Milton may have different consideration for that. But again, this soil is very permeable, and we're not changing the grades from the existing grades, and there's no drainage from the site to the resource. Okay.
So can you describe the work that's in the flood zone? It's just barely encroaching on the northwest.
Yes, we're pulling the lawn, the turf grass lawn.
The
Sorry.
flood zone, so if you follow the flood line, the zone AE and zone X.
This is the 100-foot setback from the resource. Oh, this one here.
Yeah,
So what was your question again, please?
so can you describe the
Work
change?
here?
Yeah, what work is proposed within that area? Is that any change, you said there's no change in elevation, there's no, it's just, what's that area gonna be?
In the zone AE, it's called.
Yeah.
We have, we're proposing to remove some turf grass lawn and increase the size of the planting beds and plant native species of plants in there so that it creates more habitat.
Okay. What's the elevation of the wall going to be?
The wall is remaining at the current elevation, which is 26.4, and the low point here is around 25 point something. The contour line shows 26, it's slightly below that.
So the wall is existing?
Yes.
Okay.
There's an existing Quincy granite wall that's been there for,
That whole section of Pine Tree is channelized.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Channelized
is.
for a couple of hundred years.
Yeah, just the, yeah.
You asking about this wall here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's, yes, outside that, this is actually just on the edge of it. That is, we're proposing a stone seating wall that's about this high.
Okay.
really be lovely when it's done.
Sure.
That's the summary of the whole project right there. That's the,
Well, I love the idea of you taking out the invasives, and I know that
lot of work.
Nancy has been before us, and I know she can recognize and oversee specific invasives. The only thing I would like to see, in addition to what you provide, is I'd like to see a more detailed list of exactly what you're taking out.
Oh.
For our benefit, what you find, and not only the Latin name, but the common name as well.
oh, yes.
So that, because I see most of them, but I'm sure as you're there, you'll find even more. But if you could give us an update,
Yes.
if this has begun. Otherwise, I think it sounds like a great idea.
I understand that, my observation is that probably 90% plus of the invasive non-native vegetated mass there consists of Philopia japonica, Acer platanoides. There are a lot of trees of Acer platanoides.
Yeah.
We're proposing to take most of them down,
I think there's
except,
a lot of oriental bittersweet all along
yes,
Pine Tree Brook
right
as
in
well.
here in the trees.
Yes,
And they're, I mean, it's like 20 feet high.
yes, right.
And they're in Acer platanoides, the Norway maples.
Mm-hmm.
So we're proposing to take all of that out. The kids won't even play in the backyard because it's kind of creepy.
I actually noticed this stuff. It's like barren, there's nothing there.
Yeah. So we're proposing to take all that out, and we're planting, you know, the species that we've proposed,
Right.
which are river birch.
I have just two species that I'd like to see you change.
Okay.
Specifically,
That's these sheets at the back
yeah.
of the
You
list.
have for trees, you have thuja, I'm sorry, this page here.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the western arborvitae, but that's not really native. It's not native to New England.
It's not
It doesn't do-
indigenous.
Well, it doesn't do, we're looking for natives.
It's one of the
Yeah.
trees.
First one on the west property line?
Right.
In the list, it's the second one from the top under the river birch.
It's native to the Northwest,
Yes.
like Idaho, Washington State, so that, you know, our birds, our bees, our butterflies, they're not helped by this. It's the same genus, but it's not helped. I would prefer you to do a northern white cedar instead, or an eastern red cedar, something local.
Yes, and we have seriously considered that we much prefer to use indigenous as much as possible in species that are indigenous to the property. Most of these are, or would have been at the time of the Europeans' arrival, because this was an interstice where you had, you know, all of these smaller shrubs like the cornus and the viburnum, all those species. And so the reason we're suggesting this particular cedar is because it will tolerate the shade. It's also not eaten by deer, white-tailed deer. So the other species, like all the occidentalis, all the occidentalis species, they're all like salad for deer. And there's lots of white-tailed deer here. So, you know, if we're going to plant something that's going to survive, this is probably a better bet than the natives, because they're not shade tolerant, they're not deer tolerant. So. That's
How much
I
shade
would
do you
suggest.
have here? Do you have that much shade?
Oh, yes. Along this side, yes, and on this side we have a canopy of oaks and maples that we're going to keep.
Okay.
So Acer rubrum, you know, the native red maples, and native quercus oaks. And those we want to keep. So we have a lot of competition from that. We're also going to add in birch trees, betulus, river birch on the side. The only trees that are, the only Norways that we're suggesting that we keep are larger caliper Norways that are right on the stone wall, and we don't want to destabilize the wall.
Makes sense.
So, and there is one large tree, I believe it was a Norway, that is dead, and it's just hanging there, and it's a safety issue. So we'd request to take that down.
Okay, the other tree is the cotton collar, the white fir. I think you should go with the balsam. We've had very good luck with balsams. Over on Harlan Street,
Oh, that's
we
right.
have a man who's been putting in dozens of balsams, and much to our surprise, they're doing great.
Great.
No deer issues, and it's great habitat. So again, the white fir
Maybe
is what, southwest plant, you know, I know
That's
the
fine.
balsams,
Yeah.
even with global, you know, warming. they're
We'll,
doing
we'll make
great.
that switch, that's fine.
Okay.
The others are narrow, upright, and shade tolerant, so
Okay.
for those spots, we need
No,
that, if
that we
that's
can't do
okay.
hemlocks anymore.
No, we can't,
No, the
unfortunately.
concolor that, I was using the concolor in the past because they were not eating, the deer weren't eating it, so I didn't know that about the balsams.
They're
That's
doing really
a
well.
Great.
And fast growing too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What about the, and I appreciate the fact that you put this in as a landscaping proposal, but I'm also looking at it, that this notice of intent for a swimming pool, a patio, and a deck. Does that entail any tree removal?
No. There's an existing Pyrus Caloriana Bradford pear here that's a large, it's like a 7-inch or 8-inch Bradford pear, and it's not native, but it's there and we're not removing it.
You're not removing it?
No.
Why not?
We're building around it. We're using it as an existing shade tree.
I'd
for
rather you
our deck.
take it down. It's sterile. They're the worst of the pear. The Bradford, you know, the studies they're doing, the Bradfords have absolutely, you don't find any caterpillars, you don't
Yes.
find any vegetation.
Yes.
So I would
So-
prefer you take it down and plant a couple of other, you know, magnolias or cherries or, you know, anything.
This particular, we never plant a pyrus, we never plant one of these. We never plant one of these in this kind of situation. We wouldn't suggest one. In this case, this is so valuable to the owner because it's to the southwest of the area where they want their deck, and it's already 35 feet tall. So it would take like 20 years if we planted a maple to get that tall. So in this case, we have a really great reason to keep this plant, and it's not invasive.
No, that's true.
So
Just
it's
sterile.
not providing habitat, but we're providing a lot of habitat that's not
Out in
there.
shade, okay.
Thank you. Okay, that's great. Other questions or comments or?
Site visit,
Yeah, let's do a site visit.
27th,
June 3rd is the only one I could do.
June 3rd? Do you have a construction plan?
No, construction plan, we don't have it scheduled. if
That's
what
right,
you're
that
asking.
was
Yeah,
my
no, we
question.
haven't got it scheduled.
Let's do June 3rd then.
Okay, June 3rd?
Now, you're not bringing in any soil, are you? Are you
Correct.
bringing in- okay.
I'm not putting any soil in.
So, with you, I should ask for abutters or members of the public that want to be heard on this issue. Hearing none, then we'll see you with your assent on the 3rd of June, Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Okay.
I have a question. I don't know if you had a chance to look, Erica and her husband Brian are feeling bad that there's a tree that's fallen into the brook and it's damming
Right.
the brook.
That was
and
the
there's a lot
email
of,
from a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, I saw
balls
that.
and debris collecting, like a lot. So they were wondering if we could go ahead and schedule a cleanup of
I
that.
think that might even be exempted under the act.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think you can.
Maintenance, yeah, clogging.
If it's maintenance coming out of the brook, but how are you getting it out? I mean, what kind of equipment are you using to get it out?
The tree is actually, the trunk is actually on the property and it's fallen over, so they might be able to, I don't know if they're gonna have to, you know, obviously we don't want them going into the brook to get it out. But then there's all the big debris that's kind of in the water. What are we gonna do with that? We use an
So
excavator or
it's
something?
acting as like a.
It's damming the brook,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
I saw the picture.
It's filtering all the trash and nicely. So,
Shows like plastic bones and stuff.
Yep.
You want us to just talk to you once we figure out how we're removing it?
yes.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, because we don't
let's
want
do that.
hydraulic equipment in there. We
No.
actually had a program, 4 years ago, where they came in and they showed us what they were using, actually for this section. They were trying to clean it from Turner's Pond all the way down
That
to
was a
Central
dredging,
Avenue.
right?
What's that?
That was dredging, right?
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
So we would like to take the Norway maple, that's the danger, that's the.
On the
I
wall.
have a picture of that.
That's the one on the wall?
Sorry?
The one on the wall?
There's a couple of
That's the one. This one right here, it's like tons of wood, and it could fall down, it's like 40 feet tall, very dead.
It's your favorite tree, John.
It is my favorite tree.
So, and behind this is where the fall is that, is crossing the brook now. So, it makes sense that we get come-alongs or whatever to pull these things out.
Well, you could take this down with a chainsaw, you don't need, yeah.
Right. And then we have to remove the log, just along the surface.
So is it completely dead?
Yes.
I mean, the picture is, but I don't see any foliage on any of the trees.
No, it's dead. I don't believe that any of the buds have broken, but if they do, it's.
But there are buds.
Sorry.
There are buds.
I don't know if there are buds. I haven't checked it in the last few days.
Yeah, but it looks like it's a hazard.
It's pretty diseased.
Disease hazard, and these are kids playing around here.
This is where it's fallen down, part of it's fallen down, so this.
Oh, that's part of the same tree?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a hazard.
Definitely. And it's rotten inside. It's easy to see it's punky, rotten inside.
Okay. So is the consensus to allow the removal of the tree?
Yes.
Before our
Aye.
site visit? Okay.
And you can take the tree out of the brook too.
Thank you.
Using a team of oxen or something. They would have done in the old days.
Maybe we could get acquired goats and.
Yeah. Goats are typically non-cooperative, but you're welcome to try.
No equipment in the brook, though.
We do want to know how they're going to remove it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't put
Then
equipment
let
in the
us-
brook.
let us-
No,
yes.
absolutely, yes. We'd never do that, absolutely not.
Good. All right, fair enough.
Okay.
So then, no equipment in the brook, remove the tree, somehow,
Sidewalk,
Oh,
we
like-
can vote on the sidewalk if
okay.
you need it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We can
Sidewalk on the
vote
3rd
on
of
the
June?
sidewalk.
Oh, you can vote on this project while you're on the sidewalk?
Yeah,
Yes.
you
Okay,
should,
great.
if everything is
And also, thanks for the
satisfied.
cleanup of the brook. That's
Yes, yeah.
very important. Appreciate it.
How
Anything
long
else?
have you been here? Did you just move? Did you
Just
buy?
bought
We,
it.
we moved from Frothingham Street to this property a year ago.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Sounds good.
Great.
Anything else?
June
All right, so
3rd.
we'll
Thank you.
see you on the 3rd.
See you on the 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions coming up in the interim, please let me know and I'll be happy to provide you with documentation.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Read up on the painting of the Japanese knotweed.
Yes.
I think that
We will.
it worked, yeah.
And the rodeo, too?
Actually, did you submit something to Judith that I read for the poll?
What's that?
Yes.
To,
In this situation.
Thank you.
refer to Judith. I just got a
They're all
question.
wild cherries. Wild cherries.
Yeah, either choke cherries or black cherries,
This
yeah.
would seem to be an ideal
Yeah,
location for that.
I would agree. Yeah, and they're great habitat, particularly the black cherries.
Okay.
Both are.
All right, next on the agenda, request for certificate of compliance, 333 Hillside Street. Is that a request for a continuance as well?
Yes,
All right, that's not in writing either, but that's Jim Burke?
correct.
All right.
But we also have to, as a commission, you have to approve Steve Ivers.
Yes, that's correct. And for the public's benefit, we actually did a site walk last month on site at 333 Hillside Street and suggested and required, I guess, the applicant to provide a consultant to the Conservation Commission. And the purpose of that consultant is to advise us as to some substantial deviations between the as-built plan and the approved plan. And we need some assistance. We asked for bids from 3, and I think we only received Steve Ivas.
Correct.
And Steve's proposal is in the packet. We've used him before with success, and for the public's benefit, he's sort of a proven commodity, he's a professional. And the cost will be picked up by the applicant.
The only thing I would like to add to what he's proposing, I'd like to ask him to look at the planning committee file as well, because there were statements that were made on the sidewalk that
About the turnaround.
yeah,
and
the planning allowed this, or the planning said this, and that needs to be checked out to see if
Confirmed.
that's if there's any mistake. What's being told to us is correct.
We're talking about the planning board's approval of the
road or
the roadway?
Yeah.
Project in
The
general,
whole
right?
whole
project,
project.
yeah. He needs to review the planning board's file as well.
All right.
So that
I know we have a
this-
total here, but do we have a per
I think we do for
dollar
all-
amount?
Yep.
Oh, there
I
it is,
mean, we
125
can't
an
just
hour.
take the representation that they had to do this or something else was necessary. We need to see if the,
For consistency.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the issues is the placement of the so-called turnaround. I don't know what else to
Right.
call it, where all the
For the
one-inch
fire
gravel-
access.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so,
Should we
It
also
doesn't-
say if need be, he can contact the fire department, because I think they said on the sidewalk that the fire department.
Yeah.
correct. So if you could add that to Steve, and he's got a provision in here that
File.
additional tasks are on the basis of $125 per hour, which seems reasonable to me. I mean, some people might think that's high, but in the industry, it's not. It's not. So, unless there's some comment from abutters or members of the public,
Well,
I would ask for
there
a
is
motion
one
to
letter, there
approve.
is one letter from an abutter.
Okay.
Isn't this right?
Yes, that's correct.
William Gregg. Um,
I think it's a drainage issue.
Yeah, uh-huh,
And that should go to Steve Ivers.
okay.
Okay.
Can you make sure that Steve gets a copy of
Because
that?
I think Mr. Gregg is a direct abutter, true,
Yes.
to the project.
Right,
Okay.
so that's a legitimate concern, and
Okay.
it should be under consideration by Steve Ivers. But at this juncture, we need to just get Steve on board.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve him as our consultant with the cost to be borne by the applicant?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Good, unanimous.
Right.
Thanks. So will you do those two things? Get the letter from Mr. Gregg? Is it Gregg?
Yes,
And
real good.
And then also talk to him about contacting the planning board and the fire department,
Okay.
as it relates to the position of the driveway and the turnaround,
Do
the
you
fire
want a
access.
revised plan, or he doesn't need to do that? It's just,
He needs to see both plans. Are you talking about Steve
no,
Ivers?
no, yes. Does he have to submit a new proposal? including
No.
the- okay,
No,
okay.
because he said anything in addition. would
Yeah,
be
it's within
option-
his,
yeah,
it's within the scope of what he's
Okay.
already proposed.
125 an hour.
We've had this on our agenda for a long time.
Which one?
33.
No,
No?
no, the first trip that we took out there, I mean, going way back
Way back.
for the approval process, but that was a long time ago. I mean, we're talking 10 years?
It'd be good to close this.
Yes, it would, yes, indeed, it would. But this is the one that went to the land court.
Yep.
So it was up and down and all around. Okay, so this is off to next month,
Yes.
correct? Okay, good. Next on the agenda is number 8, request for order of conditions extension, 999 Randolph Avenue. This is the Wallaston Golf Club. I don't think anyone's appearing today, correct?
Correct.
This is the one that we had asked, this is their request for a new order of conditions.
No, extension.
Right, but when we went through it the last time, we had a problem with extending it without the MSDS, the current one. But I thought we were going to ask for a notice of intent, extension
We
request. I
wanted
think.
detailed information about the chemical treatment.
Yes, okay, that's correct. This is for the maintenance of the ponds
Correct.
and removing the
Yes.
invasive species. Are there
Algae.
any Norway maples in the pond?
I don't think so.
All right.
I've got one in my front yard, you can have two. I hate it.
I have one in my neighbor's backyard, and there's nothing growing underneath it. It's amazing.
They die from the top.
Yeah.
All right, Hans, did you have an opportunity to review these chemicals?
Yeah, I checked the SDS, they're.
Appropriate?
Yeah.
And still,
acceptable, yeah.
and what, for the public's benefit, anything they use in the pond, which is an algicide, has to be approved by the state and used or utilized in accordance with DEP standards. So we just asked for an update on the chemical analysis, which we've received, and our new expert has said that It's good to him, right?
The SDSs are, yes, appropriate. They meet the standards for SDSs.
All right, all right. Well, that was my only concern, because I didn't know if there'd been changes in the chemicals used, and if so, whether or not we had on our record,
My
SDS.
request was that we had an understanding of which chemicals they were currently using, and so that we had a current list, if there were any changes from what was previously provided.
But are these the same chemicals as the one in our last extension? I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm not certain. That's why I asked.
I'm less concerned with that than I am with whether or not these comport with the current DEP regs.
That was
And
the
they are.
question at the last meeting with them, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And this appears to say, yes, indeed, they are compliant. Right?
That's what they indicated,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
They're
So is
more
it-
familiar with the industry practice than I think.
Do we need more information to extend their permit?
I don't think so, no.
Arthur, do you think so?
I think we're all set.
Hans?
I agree.
You okay?
Yep.
All right, I'm all set with it. So is there a motion, any abutters or members of the public that wish to address this issue of the algae control and the ponds at the Wallaston Golf Course? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the extension?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
second?
For 3 years,
What's that?
3 years.
Yes, I think they go in 3 years. Any discussion? All in favor? Done. Okay, thanks. That's extended. And for the public's benefit, we've gone through this in detail over a series of years, so it does, it's not as if we're doing this on a wing and a prayer. There's been a lot of discussion and a record contribution to the issue. Next on the agenda, abbreviated notice of intent, 593 Blue Hill Avenue. This is a continued hearing. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Robert Hannigan, representing the owner and applicant. Apologize for the just distributing the plan. We were going back and
Oh,
forth.
thanks.
We were going back and forth on a number of issues. The main thing was, Commission had requested that the building, proposed building location be moved, which we finally decided on doing. And,
Bob, when was this last before us?
I'm sorry?
When was this last before us? When was?
Quite some time ago.
Yeah.
Yes, about 3
March?
Sorry?
March?
Was that just
January?
Ingrid and Arthur did the sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay, that's what it is.
December
Thanks.
when we did the sidewalk. It was pulled.
December.
Okay. Now I get it.
It was a cold day.
Huh?
The coldest part of the day was in the Blue Hills. Remember that one?
Actually, it was the quarries.
Yes,
Links,
that's,
yeah.
yeah. Up the
At
edge.
least it was cold and the ground was frozen, so we didn't sink through into the mud. Anyway, so we moved finally decided to move the foundation 24 feet away from Perkins Lane and away from the resource area, based on the original one. So we show that location now with the just to refresh our memory, this is the wetlands area that Scott Goddard had delineated. We had done the work up here on 610 Brush Hill Road, and we're aware that there was a wetlands across Perkins Lane from the site. The site is accessed from a common driveway paralleling Perkins Lane from Blue Hill Ave. So the address is 593 Blue Hill Ave. We have shown some recharge for the roof drains. And one other item that the Commission had requested was a landscaping plan. And unfortunately, we don't have that at the present time. We just made the decision to move the building, so the landscape architect didn't have a chance to prepare one. So if we could request the Commission either conditionally approve, if this is acceptable to the Commission, or continue to a site visit, and we can have the landscaping plan by then. Benefit being, in the meantime, we have laid out the foundation, proposed foundation, and also the 100-foot buffer line, so you'd be able to get a good view of that. And also, too, for the members who weren't there, you'd be able to notice that there's a distinctive berm along the southwest lot line in the Perkins Lane line. So essentially, the activity is all across Perkins Lane and downhill of the wetlands. So you'll be able to get a better, in my opinion, understanding of the site if you do see it.
Good. That's a great idea, because I know my issue, at least in my head, was the height and the width of the berm. Does that extend between the common driveway and Perkins Lane?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the elevation difference between Perkins Lane and the common driveway? Or is there any?
3 feet height.
It varies along the way, but you can see underneath where it says lane, you can see that there's a definite berm difference. It's probably, berm probably rises 1.5 feet, 2 feet, maybe 3 feet at different points, but I mean, there's a definite berm you'll be able to notice.
Okay. But I mean, as you get down towards Blue Hill Avenue, where you see the parallel tracks, the Perkins Lane track and the common driveway track,
Yeah.
Along that, see where it says proposed water?
Yeah.
I mean, is that landscaped? Is that area, when I say proposed water, you follow the white area all the way down to Blue Hill Avenue?
There are some trees along that line that some of the abutters had asked to maintain, and we will make every attempt to do that. It's a 13-foot wide proposed driveway, and then the water line, gas line, sewer line are in tight in there. So.
Is that bermed, Bob?
I'm sorry?
Is that bermed in there?
I don't think to quite the extent that is, Arthur, there.
Levels out and flattens
Yeah,
out.
pretty much levels out,
in
and
that area.
then I think it rises up again. But, by that time, we're outside the 100-foot buffer, but that, we can see that if the commission would want to visit the site again.
But so it's 13 feet between, essentially, between the blue line and the orange line?
No, the
See where
pavement,
the P of
is
Perkins is?
the pavement is 13 feet. We created a driveway and utility, slight driveway and utility easement. The orange line is the lot line. So the blue line is the driveway. The blue line is the driveway. The orange line is the lot line. And we created a small driveway and utility easement along here, so it's pulled away from the Perkins Lane.
So what's the distance between the edge of the driveway and the lot line?
I can scale that right now. It's about 6 feet.
All right, and that goes from a high of 1.5 feet as you go towards Brush Hill Road, and then it goes to a low of the same elevation when you get towards Blue Hill Avenue.
No, a low of 1.5 to maybe a high, the height of the berm.
Okay.
About 3 feet. About 3 feet in that area where it says lane for Perkins Lane, the edge of the 25-foot non-disturbed.
That's about 3 feet there?
About 3 feet, yeah.
Okay.
2.5, 3 feet.
And then when you get to the P for Perkins, it's about 1.5 feet?
I didn't carry the topography to that point, but as I recall, it doesn't dip below a foot from memory.
Okay. Okay. Want to see it?
Yes.
Commission members?
Yeah. And also, when we're on that sidewalk, can you provide us a map showing this site relative to the whole area from Blue Hill Avenue? Show us a plot plan within, there's probably one in the file someplace, but, yeah. If you could give us copies of that we would.
Okay.
To show
On the
what?
sidewalk, to show that relative to where this
I
is.
can leave that now, or I can bring a copy.
Why don't you bring copies for everyone?
Okay.
I just want to see the whole, from Blue Hill up to here.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
But this is the second lot up there, right? It's not on the...
The second lot
Yeah, right
is
there.
here,
Okay.
and the first
Yeah.
lot is here.
Yeah.
The frontage for Lot 2 is on Perkins Lane. That was granted by Board of Appeals, although they required access off of Blue Hill Ave. So that's the result of the,
Apropos of nothing, but what's the purpose of not using Perkins Lane?
Good question. I wish I could get the address of Perkins Lane.
I think it was a neighbor's choice. There were a number of different proposals. I really wasn't involved with the ZBA, but there was negotiations between the neighbors and the developer.
Okay.
And the Board of Appeals case, to my knowledge, the extent was that they granted frontage on Perkins Lane, but access was to be off of Blue Hill Ave.
Okay, just curiosity.
Which, based upon the condition of Perkins Lane, may be a good thing.
Could be. All right.
Could possibly be, yeah.
And our sidewalk is June 3rd?
June
Is that
3rd.
right? Yeah.
There.
Okay.
So
We can-
first, let's add the clock time.
We can make it on Saturday.
Which Saturday?
This Saturday.
But we can't.
Oh, I can't, but they can. So June 3rd is the...
And what
Were you here? Oh, because we went through this. We
I
tried
was
everything.
watching you
Okay.
between the ballgame and
Which was more interesting.
no, always,
it's
John, always. Red Sox.
All right.
Do we have 2 or 3? I'm
Two.
confused. Just
Just
2?
two. Just
Okay, just this and Canton Ave.
Correct.
Okay.
How long do you
So
think
that-
it'll be at Canton Avenue?
45 minutes?
So we want to do this at 8:45?
Sure.
Yes. Good.
You need the parties who were there before? Do you need the parties who were there before at the sidewalk as well?
If you
I'm sorry, what
want-
party? What's that?
Yeah,
If there needs to be a vote.
if we're gonna vote at that time, yeah. You plan to vote then?
Yes.
Okay. That answers
May-
my question.
maybe.
You lost me on the
So
parties.
two of
that
us
were there.
did the sidewalk.
But you're
there.
coming in June
Yeah, but
8th,
you're coming
aren't
as a
you?
committee.
June 3rd.
That's what I just got clarified, because you gotta
Yeah.
vote.
Yes, yes, okay.
And you can make it on June 3rd, right, Ingrid? Yeah, okay.
I cannot, but that doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, soldier on without you.
Okay. There's only 2, I think I'm managed.
You won't be giving us a thought either.
All right. Anything else?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, good, okay, thank you. Good.
Okay,
And
so-
it is good you moved the house. Further away from the wetlands, it's...
Yeah, it really kind of limits the rear yard, but it was a subject of discussion. That was kind of the reason for the delay, so.
Okay. All right,
Good.
good.
Thank you.
All right. Did I ask for comments from abutters or members of the public? They-
I'm in a butter and I just have a question.
Absolutely, come on forward and identify yourself. Thank you.
Hi, Alex.
How you doing?
So my name is Michael Brown and I live on the other side.
I'm sorry,
of-
Mike Brown?
Brown, yes. I live on Vose Hill Road, 26, which is on the other side of the development site from the wetlands area. And so my question really just and this is not an objection, but it's just a question for the board. It has to do with the location of the house, and I understand the purpose and the reason for moving it away from the wetlands. My only question has to do with the fact that this development is being undertaken pursuant to a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the permit was granted pursuant to very specific plans that Mr. Monto's predecessor had presented to the board. And part of those plans included the location of the house. Now, I'm just one abutter, and I don't really have a problem with moving the location, but I just wonder if moving the house will kind of gum up the works vis-a-vis the special permit.
Good question. Do you know the answer?
I don't recall seeing, I'll have to speak with Paul Sullivan, but I don't think I saw a plan with houses on it. Now, he may have put houses on the plan and presented to the Board of Appeals, but I'll discuss that with Mr. Sullivan.
That's a fair question, and the simple answer is, I don't know, but usually the ZBA would be more concerned with frontage and access, egress, means of egress, and they'd be less concerned with where on the plot the house goes. They could be, though, and that's why I say I don't know.
Yeah, we can discuss that on the 3rd of June.
Say what?
Okay.
It's a public meeting, so you'll be right there, we'll be in your backyard.
Well, I'll try to be there.
Right.
I'll make coffee.
All right, good, that's very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just for the record, Michael is here.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Good. So we'll see you on the 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
I'll just be one minute.
Next on the agenda is informational 167 Woodland Road. You on that too, Bob?
I wasn't, but it's Paul's birthday, so Mrs. Sullivan decided to take him out to dinner, so I said we'll probably be late, so come anyway, but he asked me just to pretty much request a site visit. I'll just summarize what he told me. What he would like to do would be to access, or have Joe Delaney's access be directly onto his property from Woodland Road, and he has Brad Holmes as an environmental consultant. We flagged that area that concerned the commission, and what they want to do is they want to span it with a.
You know what they want to do.
Yeah. So anyway.
Did I see this one coming, or what? You were there, right? And how many times did I say I want that wetland flagged on the plans? And we eventually got it. And now, did they record the deed? Because the order of conditions says you shall record that
Yeah,
easement.
I believe I've seen the easement plan recorded at the registry. I will double check that, and I will have that recording information.
Okay.
But, you know, that's what he prefers, Joe prefers, and
Understood. So what do you want, to go out and see it? I mean, I've seen that place so many times, I'll go back out.
yeah, I mean, Brad can explain it better than I, the type of resource area that it is. But that's the reason.
Somebody give me a quick catch-up.
Actually, what's in front of, this is informational only. Is
Yeah.
this for amendment? Should it be filed in June? If the requesting.
Well, it's only informational, I
It's
know
only
exactly,
informational,
and
so
Hans,
there's
I
no
will tell
vote.
you what it
Okay.
was. We get, it's like there are, two plots of land like this, that were one, and it was subdivided. So this one, the driveway runs like at an angle. So if this is the existing house here, and the way the driveway runs like this. And there's a wetland right there.
Okay.
So we anticipated that they were gonna say, oh, well, we'll move the driveway over here and then come back after we approve this, because we were only asked to approve this lot. But because we had several other issues across the street, and we had already flagged that area right there, we knew there was a wetland there, so they eventually put the wetland on. And it shows that if we didn't make them do an easement like this across this land, that they were gonna come back to us after the fact and say, oh, now we need to have access to have a legitimate house, and the house has been there for 50 years and whatnot. But we knew it was coming, so he said, no, you've got to put the easement on the lot you're selling and record it. So the whole issue is, it's not a very big wetland, but it's there. And the way to avoid going through that wetland, it was an alternatives analysis. So just do the easement. So they agreed to do it, and hopefully it's been recorded. And now they want to go back and cross the wetlands. But it was right on the table, and we said, we know what you're doing, and we'd prefer, and we ordered that, you have an easement to keep the existing driveway.
But I don't know what's in front of the commission. I mean, I'm not
Just
gonna go-
informational.
Well, I'm not going to go on a site walk just for informational. I mean, if there's something before us, if there's,
I don't know what he intends to do. Is change our order conditions?
Is there an anticipated request, or is there, I mean, what's the purpose of the informational?
There will be, I believe that Paul wanted to, well, first discuss it with you tonight, and then request if you would allow a site visit to further discuss it with the environmental consultant.
Discuss what?
Yeah,
That was my question.
That's good.
So-
I know where it is.
Right. So perhaps then if we had if we file either a request for determination of applicability or.
It's already been delineated.
Yeah, okay. Or so if he files a notice of intent prior to the, was it May 31st is the deadline for filing? Yeah, May 31st, then would you consider?
To create a new driveway over the wetlands.
Right.
that's crazy. Why not use the one that you have the easement for? There's no necessity.
It sounds like, has he sold the lot?
I don't know. I just, I was asked to, just to inform you a little bit. I wasn't really deeply involved in it yet.
Okay. Well, this is great, I'm not surprised, but we do have an existing order that I hope has been filed.
Yeah, I believe that that's the case, and as I say, I recall that seeing the easement plan recorded, but I will double check that.
Okay.
And if it hasn't been, then I'll push to have it done, but.
Yeah, because we don't give sort of advisory opinions, so I think he has to file a notice of
Right.
intent to,
Okay.
I don't know, cross the wetlands
Yeah.
and
So
extinguish the
would
easement.
the commission consider, if they file by 31st of May, to, after 593 Blue Hill Ave, to take a look?
No.
No?
I've been up there so many times.
All right.
I could draw it by hand where the
Okay,
wetlands were.
that's what I was requested.
You remember?
I was requested to ask that.
Okay.
Right.
All right. It may be appropriate if he files something, then we could go take another look at it, because I know
The
Hans
next
may
time.
not be familiar with
The
it.
next time, because the hearing is the 13th, is it?
Kathy, is that,
Yes.
So,
Okay.
all right, I'll pass the word on.
Okay, good. All right, thanks.
Good.
Wish
See you on
Paul
the 3rd at
wish him
8:40.
happy birthday.
Hmm?
Wish Paul happy birthday.
I will.
Okay, good. All right, thanks.
And you're a day late for mine, so.
Oh, happy birthday to you. Okay.
So we'll see you on the 3rd.
All right, thanks. Number one, number two. Okay. Next on the agenda is additional business.
Meeting minutes. Is everyone
Yes.
reviewed them?
Yes. Where are those?
No input?
Does everybody have a copy?
Additional as well, the dead zone. So Bartlett Tree is going to meet me there, at least.
And I also have another name for you.
Oh, who's that?
I have it in my office, but
Okay.
I have the council, Harvey, not Harvey, what is it called?
Tree,
Davy Tree, is it the other?
No, it's another
big
name
one.
you gave me.
Hartney Graymont.
That's it, and they would do it for free also.
Good, okay, so
Consultant.
2 more opinions, great, okay.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
So are you going to meet them in the near future? I mean, before the next meeting, do you think?
Yes, hopefully next week.
Oh, good.
They're gonna
That's
tell
great.
me
Thanks for
exact-
following through on that.
Okay.
Because it's just kind of twisting
Yeah.
in the wind. That's it. Do you know what we're talking about? The dead zone?
You mentioned it, well, during the site walk.
Okay. It's
So-
just an area that's, very distinct.
Actually, Judith, will you want to see if Hans can go with you? So can we
Sure.
see the view?
Yeah,
Depending
you
on the
let me
day,
know, I
I'll
might
come
go
with you
too.
too.
No,
okay.
you can't, because
You
then
can't, because that's a
Oh,
public
then
meeting.
you have a
Oh,
majority.
You
Sure.
can, but you have
That's
to
right.
announce it as a public meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
So keep it below a quorum.
okay.
If you make it,
Okay.
you can be a subcommittee,
Sure.
the dead zone subcommittee.
Very fancy.
Darth Vader.
Netflix series.
Yeah, I think you said there was some analytical that was done
Yes,
on it, so
that's correct.
I can take a look at that as well.
Yeah, Kathy has that.
Yeah, I'll email it.
That's great. So we've got these minutes. Do you want to take them home to read and do it? Do we need to do this, adopt them now?
Well, I gave them to him and said, read before the meeting.
Yeah, right.
Next meeting.
I did not read it before the
And
meeting.
revise them. That's fine with me.
Well, it's kind of early. Do you want to just try to read them now? Because otherwise we might,
It's a lot.
yeah. Oh, okay, take them home.
Now you're thinking.
Kathy, I read them.
Oh,
I approved them.
I already revised them, so so I'm okay with them.
Maybe you can approve them at the sidewalk.
Yes. Just make
okay,
sure they're on the
yes,
agenda.
Yes,
Perfect.
that sounds good.
June 3rd.
Yes, I will get to it.
And I
I will
don't
get
have
to it.
anything to approve because my name's not on any
Right.
of them, so.
Okay.
And
All right.
the other thing is, Judith, did you talk to Bunny Thomas about,
I have not talked to Bunny Thomas. I will.
About what?
the planting at, after they clear cut the landscaping?
Behind
area there?
Copeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had some questions about the plantings.
Who was it, Mrs.? Somebody wanted to plant weeping willows, which are not native, but they always used to be there, and it would be nice to have some more. They're not a bad plant. You can,
They're not.
pretty nice.
We have to go back on the record.
But also, he just wanted to
Hold
have
on.
you look at what he has in stock and how you like to place
Okay,
them.
I will call him.
And the other one, John, is a scanning of the material.
What's that?
Okay.
Just to ask about the scanning of the material.
Oh, yes, that's,
Okay.
What Rico?
Is
right, RICO is, the, whatever they call it.
Bunny Thomas.
What is it? It's like a data management company?
Yeah, they
RICO,
make
you
copy
copiers and
machines
scanners
and-
and all that. They're coming into the town and giving an estimate as to what it would cost to scan all of our documents. Now, I'm sure that we're gonna get, or hopefully we'll get 2 estimates, because if they scan all of them, these engineering plans are very expensive to
Oh, I
scan.
bet.
However, like sort of maybe a scaled down version would be to scan in all of our agendas and notices of intent and RDAs and orders of conditions and certificates of compliance, because they're all, this regular size. That would be much, much cheaper.
Yeah.
But it would be a huge benefit to us, because right now we just have stacks of materials buried somewhere,
Right,
and
this
then
would-
we've got big gaps.
Right, and this way you could just type in the address and everything would come.
Right.
I've heard of other commissions trying to get away from
The hard
those.
copies,
Yeah. Has that been considered at all?
It is, this would be the first step towards it.
Okay.
I think. It's just, we don't have any money in our budget. Well, that's not true. We have $2,500.
Use it.
25 years ago, we had $3,000 a year. But it's all used on tapes.
Yeah.
And actually, we pay the water bill. Do we still pay the water bill for the Victory Gardens?
No, they have their own budget for that.
Good. So we stopped paying that bill.
Okay, that we do, most of it now, your dues is 600, maybe close to 800, supposed to be part of the,
MACC.
At MACC,
Right,
and then the conference in March.
and then we go to the conference in March.
It's,
That-
it
that's
uses up to
about it.
2,500, yeah.
But we have other monies.
Yeah, we do.
Which we
That's
can
true.
use for this.
We can. We have a revolving fund that we can spend up to $15,000 a year. We should do some kind of a reconciliation to find out what do we have.
Yeah.
I
You know?
gave those to you, yes.
You gave them to,
All the budget sheets, what we have in the fees and filing fees, and what we have in fines,
You
and
gave them to all of us or just John?
just John.
Oh, well, we can
are they in
blame
that
John.
notebook you gave me?
I gave them to you last year, but,
Last year, oh, great.
but it's coming to the end of the fiscal year, so I can just make.
Why don't you do it again and give it to,
Yeah,
not just
everybody,
John?
right.
You know how John can get.
Careful.
And see what's where, and then what we
Yeah.
can do with what we have.
Yeah.
And as promised at the last site walk, I did make mention at town meeting about the need for conversation between the Conservation Commission and the Warren Committee, which did not happen this year, correct? John?
Correct, you are correct.
And I essentially told them that, as a member of the Conservation Commission, I felt I was in the ice age. Going back to what John said.
The ice house.
No, not the ice house, that was another matter. $3,000, now down to $2,500, and, they pump up $58,000 or so for the Council on Aging. in the contingency fund and put nothing for conservation, so we're off the radar, except that the warrant does contain, should there be a successful override, provision for conservation agent.
Oh, okay, full-time agent.
Well, no.
No,
Don't get carried away.
very part-time.
Very,
2
very
days.
part-time.
Oh, okay.
Like twice a year. It's only for what, $10,000?
Well, considering what
At least
Mr.
the override should be 2 days. And Randolph has 2 days. So we'd have a conservation,
Has that been discussed with Randolph? I mean, has that been?
I believe it has. I mean,
Okay.
Has it been discussed with you guys?
No,
No.
no. Well,
First
it-
we saw of it,
Was in the,
warrant.
And who proposed it?
We
no,
assume that
you wouldn't find it. It's
Oh.
in the override budget,
it's in the
but
notes.
it's in the Public Works
Okay,
contingent budget.
What is it you're talking about?
It is a dollar amount.
Okay.
I think
To
it's
be
roughly
contributed towards-
$10,000.
That certainly wouldn't give us 2 days a week. Because it was supposed to be, 40% of the time, and Randolph was either gonna get another 40, and I don't know where the other 20%
It'd
would
be a
go to.
shared agent.
The shared agent with Randolph. That's the concept, but it's a contingent budget.
And other towns do that, yeah.
Do that.
It would take the override being passed in order for it to kick in.
Okay.
Right, so I don't know whether or not if you're still in the mix on this. I mean, have they talked to you about it?
No.
Because I was just standing there, and Mike Dennehy, did you come up? Because Mike Dennehy explained it to me. On the night you spoke, I talked to Mike Dennehy and Katie, who was still working on the Henry's project. Afterwards, right. And that's when Mike said, I'm going to reach out for Arthur. Because you had spoken, and he said, I don't think Arthur knows that we have in our contingent budget.
Katie did write to me, copying Mike, and I explained to them that we had been talking about this for 2 years, been in consultation with the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, da-da-da-da-da-da, and appreciated what was being put forward, but that we had been moving in this direction.
Right. But I knew nothing about it.
Right.
When you stood up and spoke, I had no idea that there was a contingent budget. And Hans, if you say it's $10,000, that's not going to buy us anything.
And they think it's important that
If you read the
with all the
warrant book,
buildings and all this land being donated, it's.
Yeah, that was my point. We
Yeah.
can't monitor that land unless we have, like
Right.
you full-time or somebody
Right.
full-time.
And it really should be a wetland specialist that can notify what's endangered, and I'm
Yeah.
great at administrative, but that's not my forte, so it should be.
But we don't want to lose you.
No, but I don't mind doing I will go park, but just I think you need a person on
You-
site
and
daily.
so-
Field agent,
That's what-
field person.
Yeah.
that was
just because
also
there's so
part
much
of the language
construction.
in the warrant, was that it was to better define your role and to pretty much say that there was very much part-time and that your current role is more than part-time, and so this would kind of enforce pulling it back to part-time. So
I don't know if that's good news or bad news.
Does that mean I don't have to come to meetings and site walks?
that's, so,
I can sleep in on Saturday mornings?
I think it's worth, following up on.
Yeah, it is.
So more to follow after the override vote on this. I will say that after the last town meeting, one of the members of the conservation was leaving the building and said that he would make sure that we were met with next year, and that if we didn't hear anything, to contact him.
I'm sorry, one of the members of the Conservation
Of the
Commission?
Warrant Committee.
Oh, the Warrant Committee, oh, yeah,
If
good.
the,
Yeah,
if the Conservation Commission wasn't contacted by the
Yeah.
Warrant Committee.
Yeah.
And he got the message that the Warrant Committee should meet.
Talk to
come
us.
and meet.
Yeah, because they need our input in terms of
Exactly.
what's happening and what's
And I
coming
said
up.
to Katie, I said, look, the Conservation Commission needs, in a nice way, the Conservation Commission needs the Warrant Committee, and the Warrant Committee needs the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission. Because they can't do what they need to do vis-à-vis conservation for the town of Milton unless there's a dialogue.
Sure.
And the dialogue has to be more than saying, oh, you've got another $2,500 for the 125th year. That's not going to do it.
You are correct.
I do have one other item of
Yes.
business, Mr. Chairman, and this is brought to my attention by citizen advocacy for protection of the Neponset Basin between Hillcroft Road and Granite Avenue, where there is reportedly or allegedly the dumping of considerable amounts of yard waste, and request that there be communication to all of the abutters in that area about what should not be done, and that there are related fines and so on down the line. So that's the type of activity that an
Educational
agent would
thing,
do.
right, correct.
Right, and related to that would be appropriate signage in that area, and we have a signage policy, so they all now, so that all ties together, so that people who abut.
When you say they're all cut now?
The yard waste
Yeah.
is being deposited.
Right, but when you're talking about the signage.
We have a policy, a signage policy, so tying that in would be appropriate as we're working with budgets and possibly an agent to make sure that there are monies that are set aside for the types of signage that are used in other communities. And we have some nice samples of that we can make available.
We should go up to the high school and go to the woodworking shop and say, can you make us a sign? I mean, a nice
Yeah, sure. All types of possibilities.
Yeah, that's true.
Just
Have
depends
you
on
gone
when you
down?
want it.
What's that?
Just depends on when you want it.
That's true.
Yeah, there's a long line, there's a long queue, that's right, exactly.
Have you gone down to see what there was to see? I
didn't-
drive by it every day and I haven't
This
stopped.
person only spoke with me at the last election, which is pretty recent, but I do recall that when we were down there for some site walks in the last year or
On
two,
the Hillcroft side, the last house?
we saw.
It's actually on Squantum.
And they were talking about on the other side too,
Correct,
on
yeah.
California Avenue, what's the other, Locust, not Locust, all the streets in there.
Right. It's funny, I know California, but even though when I come off the expressway, I pass it every day, and I don't know the name of it. I know California, but not the next one.
Yeah. Lockland? There's several in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All right. Anything else? I mean, I'm going to take a look there myself.
Okay. Yeah, you're not too far away, and I'm not too far away.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to join you if you want, if we're
Sure.
able to do that, or I'll go down at another time.
Okay. Anything else? Any other new business? Motion to adjourn? Yes? All in favor? Done. We're done.
Good,
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, we need to sign some of these.